Question. I think we'll be much more competitive this year. I don't like to put expectations on it, but I think we did a lot of things this offseason that were advantageous to us moving forward. And, we continue to improve the depth of the team and ignite competition here today.
Thanks.
Next question, Sophie Weller.
Hi, Eliot. Thank you again for speaking with us. I'm just curious. Obviously, a lot of picks today, but there's two I want to focus on. With Joshua Farmer and Braden Swinson, were those two players you were kind of surprised possibly that they fell and were available when you guys were up? It's been some of the chatter that they were steals or they were expected to go higher. So I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on those two and when you were able to get them in the draft.
Yeah, I think anytime you can get some depth on the defensive line, whether it's inside or outside with both these guys, Swinson has some pass rush. Farmer can, rush the passer and play the run. We were excited that those guys were still available, and we just kind of trusted the board. And, that's kind of, not that you asked this, but kind of part of the reason for all the trades, just, kind of moving up and down the board as we saw fit where the value was.
I didn't ask it, but I would have asked it had I known. So.
Next question, Mark Daniels.
Hey, thanks for doing this. What would you say the ultimate goal was here in this year's draft, and just how happy are you with the process and how it played out?
I'll answer the second part of that first. I thought the process was phenomenal. The collaboration with the scouting staff and the coaching staff, nutrition, training, football ops, just everything was great. The 30 visits were organized, Nancy from the travel on, like everything was really good. And then, I think it all came to fruition this weekend. And I think we were really able to, help the team out. As far as what we tried to accomplish, it was just, filling some of the holes that we had and increasing the depth and competition on the roster with the right type of people.
Thank you.
Next question, Ian Steele.
Hey, Eliot, I'm curious, in your opinion, how did you guys do things better this year than you did last year or in years past?
I just think the whole vision for the team was really good. Not that we didn't have that last year, or with Bill previously, but there was a lot of clear communication between Vrabel and our staff. He was around a lot in our meetings. It was just a really good process. And then I would say, as the guys are still working on it right now, hopefully they're closing some of these undrafted free agent deals out. And this is on me from last year. We just didn't have an organized enough process, and Ryan Cowden and Coach Vrabel and Stretch really came in and helped me organize this. And I think we're going to have a productive group.
Next question, Mike Giardi.
Good evening, Eliot. In Braden Swinson's report in the Beast, there was a conversation on weaknesses that he butted heads with the coaching staff at various points. I'm curious, and you don't have to say specifically with him, or you can if you want, but do you ask the player directly about that, or is that something you investigate with the coaching staff first, and if you feel comfortable with it, you're good?
Yeah, I think we talk to a lot of different sources at these colleges, and we talk to the player, we interview the player. So when there's a situation like that, if it is a red flag, it's something that we'll bring up and just try to see how they answer those things. With Braden, I had the opportunity, as everyone knows, when I went to practice at LSU this year, as we mentioned with Will Campbell, Braden was really impressive in practice. I mean, he was really getting after it, and that was a good thing, because there were some of those questions perhaps about him. But I left out of there feeling really comfortable with him.
Thank you.
Next question, Nick O'Malley.
Not sure if the video's working. Eliot, I was looking at prospect rankings and looking at Kobe Minor, and the best I could see was Dane Brigler had him as the 127th best cornerback in the draft. What kind of stood out for you for about him, and why do you think there's a sort of disconnect between your value and maybe the outside value on him?
Yeah, Kobe's a guy that our scouts that went into Memphis this year got on early. And I think to answer your question, he was a double transfer guy. He started his career at Texas Tech and then played 1 year at Indiana and then actually transferred to Memphis this year. And he transferred kind of late. So I don't know that he was necessarily on the radar early in the season for some people. And then he had a hamstring. So, he came back from it and played well. But the movement skills at practice, the ability to play the football in the air, his competitiveness. We brought him in for a pre-draft visit, 30 visit, and he did a really nice job on that. And so he was just kind of a guy that we had some affinity for, and Mr. Irrelevant, pretty cool experience for him. But we were excited to be able to add him.
Thank you.
Next question, Mike Reese.
Eliot, the quarterback position, obviously you hear people say most important in the sport. You got I think just 2 on the roster right now. What are your thoughts on a third guy, and might you be able to share a commitment you might have from someone at this point, undrafted, maybe, if that's in the cards?
Yeah, we're working on some undrafted situations at a lot of different positions right now, and quarterback will be part of that. And so I'm not. My phone's buzzing down here. I think we're getting some texts. I'm assuming that's what it is, but we're definitely expecting to add another quarterback.
Next question, Greg Bedard.
Eliot, you guys obviously did what you did in free agency and the draft. Do you think you have do you think you have your team right now, or do you have flexibility financially, especially if somebody shakes loose at some point, like a major piece that you could add to this team?
I think we have some flexibility. Richard Miller might tell me differently, but that's his job. But yeah, we'll definitely look at different ways to improve the team. Whether that's trade or someone that might become available later.
And next question, back to Nick O'Malley.
Hi, Eliot. A bit unusual seeing a long snapper as part of the draft class. The Patriots have a guy that's been here for a long time, Joe Cardona. Is there a question about Joe Cardona's long-term future with the team? What went into the decision to draft a long snapper?
Julian Ashby was a player that we liked. We felt like he was the best long snapper in the draft, and through some of the conversations that we had, we felt like he might not be someone that would be available post draft, and just again wanting to add some competition to the roster, we decided to pull the trigger there late.
Thank you.
And next question, Mike Reese.
Maybe just similar, Eliot, on the kicker. Is there a strategy on when to go in there, like looking at maybe other teams that possibly have a similar need there?
Yeah, there was. I feel like the special teams community always thinks like 10 kickers are going to get drafted every year, and that's not the case. So it's a kind of key of balancing, your value for the player. And we decided to jump in there with Andres when we did, and feel pretty comfortable with that. Another kicker went shortly thereafter, but we felt like Andres was good value there, and he was a player that was ranked high on our board.
And next question, Taylor Kiles.
Hi, Eliot. Thank you so much for your time. I was curious what your outlook is at the nickel cornerback spot with Marcus Jones, obviously in the last year of his deal. Do you see Kobe Bryant maybe factoring in there? And what is your perspective on the long-term outlook at that spot?
Kobe Minor? You said
Kobe
Kobe
Minor,
Bryant.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Weekend.
Yeah, so Kobe Minor's a guy we feel like can play outside and inside, and I feel like we have some other players on the roster that have that flexibility with Dial, Isaiah Bolden, and in certain matchups, certainly Gonzalez can go in there. And then, as I'm sure aware of, like the big nickel position on early downs is something that we'll see from this defense.
Thank you.
All right, with no more hands raised, Eliot, we'll let you get back to work. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the rest of the night.
All right, thanks a lot, everyone.